Hey, this is Seagrove. If you are new here and you would like to improve at the game, consider subscribing. We're all about growth and improvement. These guys are going to help you and help me discuss and decide what the meta is going to be like in Dallas. Rukan, are you going to Dallas?
Yes.
Good. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Rukan. I got second place in Philadelphia with Malamar this year. And I'm also going to Dallas. I've been prepping Malamar because that's just been what I'm playing, and I don't really want to play any of the degenerate stuff in expanded, but just gonna go and have fun is how I see it.
If you're letting your opponent play Pokemon and expanded, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just have some fun. It's okay.
Good.
We don't need to.
Schemanske, Alex, introduce yourself.
I'm Alex. I'm going to Dallas.
Good.
Doing decently well this year. Past that, yeah.
What are you right now?
Fourth.
Yeah, decent. All right, Xander, introduce yourself.
I'm Xander, also going to Dallas,
Good.
and taking more of a break this year, but still purging on strong. Gonna take down Dallas with some regular meta decks and call it a day.
Do you play Cups?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was in Florida over winter break just for on vacation. Went to 2 of the cups there and got 90 points total, so chilling on cup points now.
Cups and challenges are actually my favorite because I can play whatever I want
Mm-hmm.
and still do fine. But
Yeah, just pick up whatever.
yeah, just play something fun. All right, so talking about Dallas, let's just start with Zoroark. We'll probably start and end with it, to be honest. But
Mhm.
is Zoroark Toad? Is there an answer to Zoroark Toad? Is it still the best deck in the format? Those are my two questions. Xander, why don't you start?
I think there's always going to be an answer to any deck depending on how much you want to tech your deck for it. You could take your other Zoroark deck or your Malamar or your Fire deck or your whatever, honestly, and throw in some card to beat it, Ranger, or just play a different supporter line to better edge yourself against it. And then there's also just choosing an entirely different deck to do well against it. I know Archies can sometimes beat it by just flooding the board. Especially with the new Whaler GX, maybe you'll just spread 100 on turn 1 and win the game immediately. But I don't think that you can actively tech for it. Say you could Greninja break or Trevenant break with a Giratina. I think a deck still has to stay true to its consistent core, and adding in cards other than just Pokemon Ranger detracts from that too much. So I think it's the best deck because there's no real way to counter it. Without compromising your deck or switching to an entirely different deck.
So you think Ranger is the best tech to beat it?
Yeah, because if you play the Ranger, then you can use VS Seeker. And I think Ranger in conjunction with other cards. If you play Ranger with your own counter threat or your own Seismitoad or your own Oranguru, then you'll be able to at least outlast them or go infinite. Or at least infinite to a point that you can take your 6 prizes before you get decked out.
Okay. Rukan. Is Zoroark Toad still the best deck? And is there anything that can beat it?
I feel like it's one of those that just has a lot of, it just forces 50-50s, like Xander sort of said. I feel like a lot of people don't want to over tech for it because A, there's not too many people in the format that can really play it well in the first place. And B, since they have the item lock and they have so much disruption, it's hard to find a single card that actually swings the matchup that much. I think a lot of people are just going to get to a point where they 50-50 the matchup. And they're going to call it a day, and they're just going to try to play a deck that's they think is probably more powerful against the rest of the formats. Or maybe they just don't feel like playing Zoro Toad. But I think if someone good does play Zoro Toad, I don't think they're going to have any truly horrific matchups. I'm not sure. I've heard people say the Rayquaza and the Lucario matchups can be bad if they set up pretty well quickly. That just seems to be the trend of Expander right now. Just a lot of decks that do a lot of stuff on turn 1, and Toad isn't necessarily great against that, but it's not necessarily horrible either.
Okay.
If Exodia misses one turn, it's just lights out.
Yeah. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I mean, really have only tested the matchup with like Zoro Garb against Zoro Toad, and I found the Ranger to be like incredibly helpful, but I don't know if it's worth playing in the long run because not many players are going to be able to play Zoro Toad as well as they could. Like, it's just less important than taking for Wailord or something like that.
Mhm.
What? Okay.
I mean tag team, not like
Yeah.
mill.
When you say Wailord, do you mean Archies with a Wailord in it?
Yeah.
And what would you tech against that?
The mime in Zoro Garb is generally helpful.
What's mine do?
Bench barrier. Prevents bench damage.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so another deck that I've heard people talking about to beat Zoroark Toad is fighting. I've heard a bunch of different things. Is there a Zygarde, a Regirock, Groudon? Is there something like that that can stand up against Zorotoad?
Mhm.
I mean, Groudon does it, but like doesn't beat much else.
Okay, what does Groudon have trouble against?
Lele DCEN.
That's
Like,
a pretty
literally.
impressive thing. Yeah.
It literally just can end Groudon's game right there and be done.
Because they can two-shot Groudon and then
Yeah. And you might not have an answer for the
you
Lele.
might not find a stadium or something.
Exactly.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
What about
If
like
only-
go ahead.
If only there was more support for Groudon, that would be great. To play a neat deck, but no.
What about a Zygarde EX that can one shot, or a Zygarde GX that can reattach energies to itself?
I think if you're getting to that point, like if you're trying to choose like a fighting deck to beat that deck, you might as well just pick the fastest, most efficient, or like fighting deck, because fighting in expanded has so many tools to boost its damage that if you're going to pick up a fighting deck, you're going to want to outfit your deck with all those boosting. Like you're going to play Strongs anyways. You have your Diancies, you have your Karina, like you have the normal fighting engine.
Right.
But I think if you're going to choose a fighting deck, you might as well just play like Buzzwole with a 1/1 or 2/1 Carboncoin to try and go for that infinite idea. And if you really wanted, you could throw in the one Zygarde GX in there, but I don't think that does much against like Counter Catcher.
Okay.
And then the other option is just the Lucario to try and one-shot Zoroarks.
Yeah, Lucario. Rukan, did you see Sosa's
Aware.
Lucario?
I'm aware.
What'd you think of it?
I think I love it because I just went 2-3 field lower Malamar and I Giratina ping everywhere, and then it's just over. I think it's a good deck. I think specifically against Zoroark, but I honestly don't really like the rest of its matchups, and that's kind of how I wouldn't play it personally.
Mm-hmm. Schemanske, anything to add to that?
I mean, I would compare the Lucario to Glaceon Barbaracle that
Oh boy.
some of the Six Prizes crew played last year in
Oh.
California. Like, it's
Exactly.
built only to beat Zoroark, and it doesn't beat much else.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I think it does
Glace-
fine against a lot of stuff.
It doesn't have, like, if I'm playing for, like, matchups that aren't Zoroark, I'm playing Zoroark. That's the thing. Like, I'm just going to play Zoroark if I think I'm not hitting Zoroark.
Yeah.
Let me say this, that sorry to interrupt,
Go ahead.
but let me say this, that Glaceon beats things other than that. Glaceon is a great deck and
Oh boy.
can't diminish.
Okay,
Xander
Xander,
Plus
how'd you
gonna
do?
play it, confirmed.
Went 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. All right, so let's look at. Shoot, now I'm thinking about Glaceon. We saw Bees get second in, I don't know, one of these ones on the West or something, or maybe it was Virginia. I don't know. Whatever. We saw Bees get second. What was it? Anaheim.
Yeah.
Anaheim. Okay. Does Bees have a place? I mean, it can't beat Zorotoad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it could once in, like, 10 games.
Mhm.
I mean,
It just...
I think if you're fine losing the Toad matchup, I think it's actually a pretty good deck.
what
But yeah.
what does other matchups look like?
I mean, it's just a strong deck. Hit single prize trader, hits big numbers, and you have battle compressor, so you eventually get to a point you're kind of resilient to N. Well, all good properties to have in a deck.
Yeah. What about
All you have
Cairns?
to unknowns. If you drop a bunch of unknowns turn one, you're like slightly better against like Exodia decks. So it's got some stuff going for it.
I have a friend who
all-rounded.
played in Oranguru, one of Oranguru, just to nest ball or whatever. I don't know what, I don't remember his list, but just to get it out turn 1. And he played against an Exodia, got it out turn 1, and then didn't lose because of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the best aggro deck right now?
I mean, I like Malamar better because I think it does similar stuff. But I mean, it's obviously Vespiquen's a lot better against like Garbodor because you don't need to offline Field Blower or Faba every single turn.
Xander, do you expect like Orcorio or Karen?
Not at all. I don't think anyone's going to tech for Vespiquen, and if they are teching for Vespiquen, they're wasting their time. Mainly because, similar to the point of Toad Zoroark, you're not going to find someone playing Vespiquen to the level of the top player. Just like inherently, like there's going to be small sequencing errors that lead to losses if you're not very experienced with the deck. So, if you're winning the first place, you're a lot less likely to hit a Vespiquen than you are like a random Zorogarb or a random Blacephalon or I don't know whatever else exists in Expanded. Like, you're just way less likely to hit a deck that's already. You're way less likely to hit a deck that's inherently unpopular, but also one that's hard to play.
Right. Alex, is Vespiquen the best of Vespiquen, Night March, and Lost March? And if so,
Yeah.
why?
It's just better because, like, I don't know, it has, like, the maxi option, which I think is probably the best thing it brings to the table. Like, I watched a few games against Zorogarb, and the Gallade was pretty insane. Like,
so why is it better than Night March?
Night March is way more fragile, I think, like, and doesn't have the ability, like, I don't know, it's just like Night March has lost, like, the strength it once had.
I'm going to disagree. I think Night March is stronger. And I agree with everything Alex says. I just think there's toolbox options that I'm keeping close to my chest that are really, really powerful. And they just smash Zoroark. But, like, he's not wrong about, like, the core deck. Like, the main attacker's got some issues. But, like, you can run some other stuff in it that you can't run in a Vespiquen deck that I think really pushes it over the top.
Are you keeping those close to your chest so that you can play Malamar?
This is my backup option. Because, like, Bellord's got me scared. I don't want to set up, like, 3 Malamars and get them 100 damage to everything and then I lose.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Cool. So, honestly, Archie's wasn't that good coming into this. Does Wailord really change that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes the deck stronger. I still don't like the deck's overall consistency. I feel like you too many times you Archies for 5 and then I don't get enough energies, or I whiff like Ultra Ball, or I whiff the Draw Supporter, and it's like those games just feel awful.
Okay, Alex, tell me. Oh, sorry.
I'm done.
Okay, Alex, tell me why it works, and Xander, tell me why it's still bad when it's finished.
Cool. All right, so the 300 HP attacker that can kill Zoroark is kind of broken. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's just insane.
How many energies does it take to kill Zoroark?
5.
And a band, or?
And the band, yeah. But, like, you're playing Archie, you're thinning your deck pretty fast.
Okay.
So you're finding it. And order pads. Like, just, and the ability to cripple your opponent on, like, turn 1 or turn 2 with the GX attack is just so good. I don't know, it's just been, like, also, I refuse to play Archie to this event, if only because I hate Archie. But this is going to be the deck that a lot of people go back to because they think it has new life, and it does. It's just, it beats a lot of things now.
Okay. Xander, what do you think?
All right, so when I disagreed at first, I didn't know it had a decent other attack, which kind of like changes my mind a little bit. But I still think like now they're not playing Muscle Band, so now the Articuno is a lot worse. So I think they're going to be a lot worse against. What did you say? Sorry.
A lot of them don't run Articuno anymore, right?
That's
just
so bad.
Not at all. What?
Maybe like
playing Articuno.
I think playing Articuno is necessary. Like, you need that 1 or 2 Articuno, at least for some decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not sure what's happening now, but I guess if you're having just Zoroark versus Archie's Wars, I think Archie still gets wrecked by Zorogarb. I think Archies can still get wrecked by Zoro Exodia on turn 1. I think you're not gonna get, and also like the main point, I guess, like having a 300 HP 210 dealer is good, and I think that's what the card's more going to be useful for. I don't think you're ever going to reliably get that GX attack off. Like getting 8 energies of your 10, or like 11 if you're playing an extra down turn 1. Like you're statistically going to prize 1 on average. So then you're going to need to find 8 out of your 9 energies on turn 2, which means you're going to draw like all but 5 or 6 cards of your deck on turn 1, which just like isn't going to happen. I think it's more prevalent as the 210er, but I think it's still just it doesn't change Archie's problems. Archie's is still going to have the same problems in the still bad Garbotoxin matchup just because it's Archie's.
What are those problems?
Just being a hit or miss deck. I mean, like you're hitting your Archies a lot of the time, and that's why it wins. Like you win when you hit your Archies and when you get those energies going. But you're also just going to lose to Zoroark sometimes when they one-shot you and you one-shot them, and they one-shot you and you one-shot them, and you're doing that. And then Garbodor makes that more prevalent, and then Seismitoad, like Toad Zoroark in and of itself, can just bring up a Blastoise or something. Which I don't know that matchup, but I know that it's definitely one of Toad Zoroark's harder ones. Because Archies can roll them, but it's not. Wailord doesn't do anything to fix its bad matchups. It's more of like a win more, in that your GX is a win more that can shut out the game, and your 210 attack is one that sure can one-shot a Zoroark, but you're going to need more than that, I would say.
So if you... Go ahead.
So like the lists I've seen, like they don't run the Articuno, but they run like 2 to 3 additional energy, so they hit the GX attack more often, and the GX is what's supposed to solve like the Garbotoxin matchup, right? Because he kills all the Trubbishes and any Garbotoxins that might be left, and then they're kind of free to roll the rest of the game. I mean, the thing is, like, you run out of a lot of deck space, which is, I say, like, I feel like a lot of them might be cutting Articuno to get that extra GX attack consistency.
That's very fair. And I mean, I admit I'm removed from the general incoming Wailord meta, but I would also say that as a Zoroark player, if this ever becomes a threat, and like Alex is saying, there's going to be people playing this deck just because it's Archie's, then I just throw 1 Mime in my deck, and then the matchup is completely solved.
Yep.
Just like how, like, it's even more solved than throwing a Giratina in your Greninja Break, like, to beat Greninja Break, because Greninja can still win against Giratina, but if you're playing Zoroark with a Mime against Archie's, you're just not going to lose.
So... this is going to be a little bit different than general tag team GXs, but I want to talk about how you play a tag team GX, because it has so much HP, but it gives up 3 prizes. And obviously Wailord is going to be a little bit different just because it has even more HP, but are these things that you're leading with, and then you're just going to be Acerola looping? Is this something that you bring out when your opponent has 2 prizes left or 1 prize left? How do you guys see proper playing of these tag teams? Rukan, why don't you start?
I mean, I'm not an Archie's expert, but I feel like Archie's is one of those decks that you just kind of play out your hands, and you get your Archies, and then you just do what you have access to. And typically, I think it does help to lead Wailord, unless you're like in some weird matchup where you want to set up like a Volcanion Prism Star spread first, and then transition into a Wailord, like against Buzzgarb Shrine. It's nice to put their baby Buzzwoles down to like 20 spread, so that when you can eventually GX, it does good numbers, stuff like that. But for the most part, I think it's perfectly fine to just lead Wailord. Most decks can't really deal with an early Wailord unless you're up against the Gliscopod.
Right. Alex, what do you think about just generally playing with a 3 prize attacker?
For Snorlax and Eevee and Latias and Gengar Mimikyu, I'm sticking to my discard and using Marshadow. Malamar. It's just more tools.
It's just attack is so good that you want to use it, but its HP
except for
really
Snorlax, yeah. Snorlax is the only one that can stand alone, in Malamar, I think.
Is that because it has so much more HP?
Yeah. It has more HP and the attacks do more damage, consistently.
What's the HP on it?
270, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing with it? Are you putting it out right away? Are you holding it when your opponent has 2 or 1 prizes left?
I mean, it just depends on the game state. Like, if I can just sweep with the Snorlax, I'm winning. Like, I'm just gonna do it. Like against Buzzwole, obviously, I'm not benching it. Just in general, like you have to be more careful. Like, you plan your prize cards out, plan out what you can give out. Plan what's going to be knocked out on your side.
Okay. Is there something to be said for? Again, this is a little bit off topic because it's later, but like an expanded using a Mew. I'm guessing you wouldn't do it with Wailord because of Zoroark's resistance, but using a baby Mew to attack with a tag team on the bench. So you're just like hitting with a 1 prize attacker while you have a 3 prizer sitting on the bench, maybe with a float stone or something.
No, you wouldn't do that.
I'll chime in.
Well, first of all, you're eating a bench space. You can't afford that. Secondly, if the Mew dies, you lose 4 energy, whereas the Snorlax, it can take 2 hits a lot of the time. So it's actually more energy efficient, even though it gives up the extra prizes.
Okay. Xander?
Yeah, echoing what Rukan says, like, you might be up in the prize trade, but you're eventually going to just be overexpending resources to be in that prize trade. So, like, with Snorlax doing 4 energies per turn, sure, it might work out. Like, if you're playing Malamar or some other deck that could reuse energies, that's where it has a possibility. But I think there's so few that you're going to be having your GX one-shot by, especially if you just have other options to attack with than your GX, like with the Guillotine on Malamar. There's just no reason to play Mew for those extra deck spots or bench space per se. Because if you're not playing Malamar or Eels or something like that, you're not going to be able to continuously stream that energy and keep attacking with a 4 energy Mew that dies.
Do any of you all like Sylveon Dual Brains?
Not really. Like, I tried it for I think it was Portland. It was mediocre at best.
Why?
Well, eventually Trashlands just kind of runs you over, and it just doesn't handle like Trevenant. Trevenant was way more prevalent at the time, so like I tested it a lot. It does not handle Trevenant at all. Like, I was to the point where I was playing Jolteon Rough Seas to try to counter it, and it still didn't work because I got end every turn.
Yeah. Good. Do you like? What are your thoughts on Trevenant?
Me?
Sure.
Sure. I hate it.
Why?
I've played the last 2 expanded events, and I've done really badly.
What are you losing to? Just Zoroark?
Zoroark. Every time, if you go first against Zoroark, you have a shot. If you go second, you're just done. You don't bother playing the match. Like, I have not won a game against Zoroark going second.
That's not good. What else are you losing to? Is it just Zoroark?
Literally just Zoroark and Archie's once, and that was just...
Archie's is also tough.
Yeah.
Next, I want to go around and say one deck that we haven't talked about that you think has some potential. Rukan, we'll start with you.
There's a lot to pick from. Like I said,
give us a couple.
I'm just gonna tell you about the Malamar deck I've been playing because is it a good deck? No, probably not. I've been testing it. It has like really, really good matchups against like a lot of the non-Zoroark decks in the formats, and you can build the deck to the point where you go 50-50 against some Zoroark variants, and you can go 50-50 against Zoroark Toad. But some Zoroark variants you're just not going to beat, which is the main issue. And now Wailord, I was hoping it wasn't going to get popular, but it looks like it is. So maybe that probably pushes Malamar a little bit too far off of the matchup spread. But that's almost what I've been testing exclusively. Like I said, my mentality is the format's not exactly what I'm into, so I'm kind of committed to just playing a deck I enjoy, and Malamar kind of just is that. And I'm comfortable enough with the Zoroark matchup just because I've played it enough. I don't think it's as bad, but then again, it's just because I have so much experience with this deck that might as well just go all in on it.
Cool. Xander.
I'm gonna say Sceptile, Cradily, Vileplume, whatever, because that's the only like off the wall deck that I've
not heard of this.
What? All right, so basically, it uses Sceptile GX with like the one of Ultra Beast blocking Sceptile with the item lock Vileplume and like maybe the basic block Vileplume and Cradily and like one Magnezone to basically just set up sort of like an Infinite Walls deck that item locks.
What does
And then
Cradily do?
Cradily is for each energy on it. Search your deck for a stage 2 and bench it. So you have your Ditto out, and because it's still an old fossil, it's a stage 1. So you would go Ditto, evolve to Cradily, attach a grass, and then search out a stage 2 and put it on your bench.
That's
with life
busted.
solution. Yeah.
I love it.
And so that deck is just, I don't think it's good and can't really stand up to 9 rounds of Pokemon. But I think if there's one deck that's going to exceed expectations, it'll be that deck, because that deck can manage Toad Zoroark by just setting up on it and then using Mach Cut every turn or some other stuff like that and dealing a lot of damage and doing other things. And then theoretically it beats Zoroark, but in practice it falters along the way because it's a really slow deck and then has holes that can get poked through it.
Alex.
We haven't talked about Rayquaza, right? Like, at all. All right, yeah, Rayquaza. Like, I've tested it a little bit. It's actually pretty good. Like, at a cup I played in a while ago, I was playing Zoroark, he was playing Rayquaza. This guy managed to get 8 energy with 3 items down.
I remember this game.
Yeah, this game was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I had no chance. Like, it was insane.
Can I add onto your Rayquaza when you're done?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Like, it just has more potential to go off than any other deck in this format, I think.
Yeah. And I'll counteract Alex's point that when it doesn't go off very hard. Like in top 4 of one of the Florida Cups, I played against Jose, and he was playing Rayquaza, and he went first in both games 1 and 2, and he just didn't put down Sudowoodo turn 1, and he just lost the game immediately, because then I got Sudowoodo, I got a Bridget, his bench was already at 4, and then he could never put more energies into play, and then that deck falls apart to Sudowoodo just because you can't have so much Pokemon in play. Like, the way to beat that deck with anything is to just put Sudowoodo down going first, because then they're really limited in having Zoroark, 2 Rayquazas, and Ho-Oh, and like a Shaman down. And like, that's their whole board. They can't put any more Shamans, they can't put Waylay. And the reason why that deck goes off so much is because they go Skyfield and they fill their bench with Shamans and stuff like that. And Rayquazas using Storm Winds, whatever. But when you can prevent that, or when they just don't draw their amazing hand, they lose. But like Alex said, it's a high roll deck like Archie's, and it's gonna high roll you sometimes. And it feels really bad when it does.
So back, like, the one I played against actually played 0 Ho-Oh and heavy Fury Belts and relied on full voltage GX like every game, and he hit it consistently.
It sounds like you got luck sacked.
I think.
I mean, yeah, but
I don't think that's working.
it's
like,
not.
I don't think that
it's like
works.
the best way to run it, but like, it is a way to like handle some of the Sudowoodo problems. You don't rely on bench space as much.
I mean, I would say theoretically, like Jose's Rayquaza deck that still played Fury Belts and still played Zoroark, you can still go for the full voltage when you want to.
Yeah.
It's just that playing 1 or 2 Ho-Ohs in your deck literally just gives you plus 60 damage every single game.
Definitely. It's just like you rely a little less on bench space.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's now go around. We'll start with Alex. And I want 2 things. I want the one deck that you will not lose to, and the best 1-card tech. It doesn't have to be the deck that you against the deck you won't lose to, but the best single card tech and the one deck you don't want to lose to going to this tournament. Maybe it's the deck that you expect to see the most or to see in day 2 a lot. Alex, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I refuse to lose to Exodia. Like, I refuse to be cheesed out of wins.
And how do you stop that?
And the tech I'm playing is definitely Oranguru.
Okay.
I refuse to play an event without Oranguru at this point.
This is just to be clear, is the draw 3.
Yes. Like,
all right.
Oh.
Same. Xander.
If I play Zoroark, I really admit I will never lose a Zoroark beer. And I'm going to be playing Mr. Mime so I don't lose to anybody playing Archie Stoys, because that would feel really bad to lose to a Wailord turn 1 in an unlosable matchup. That might be popular.
All right, Rukan.
If I play Malamar, and it's seeming less likely every single day, but if I do, I'm going to include a Faba because I don't want to lose to like Toad Silent Lab.
Cool. What do you think is the most? This is for anyone. What do you think is going to be the most played deck?
Zoroark. It's the easy play.
You agree, Rukan?
Yeah.
All right. Zoroark. So be ready for it. Last question. What is the best deck you will not be playing at this tournament? Rukan, you start.
I'm not playing Zoroark. I can't do it. I'm just not one of the better Zoroark players out there, and I feel like every time I play Zoroark, I end up getting punished for it in some way. Maybe I've had more time to play test, but it's really hard to get people to play test in Expanded right now, at least for me.
Yeah, sounds about right. Alex.
I'm not playing Archie ever.
And why is that?
Because I just have incredibly bad luck with that deck. Like I probably miss Archie more than 50% of the time, just when I play it in general. Like it's just
maybe you're just bad.
You should just watch me playing these games. They're bad.
Xander.
I will not be playing Toad Zoroark to this event.
Okay.
Because I would rather pick a deck that beats it than a deck to play it. Mainly because of the skill cap issue, also because I want to enjoy my 9 rounds. But I could also see myself actually just throwing the deck whimsically together on Friday night because I want to experience the joy of playing Seismitoad for an event.
The joy. Yes.
Not even sarcastically. It's really fun to Quaking Punch and just let my opponent do that.
You're not wrong.
Today at the tournament, people were just like, quack. Quack.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Sums it up perfectly.
All right. So let's go ahead and shut this down. Rukan, any shout-outs?
Shout out to Pokebeach. I'm writing for them. And that'll be it.
All right. Xander.
Shout out to 6 Prizes for being a great article site, and also shout out to Rahul for being a cool guy.
All right. Alex.
Shout out to 6 Prizes. I'm a writer, dropping an article Monday, and shout out to Top Cut Comics for sponsoring me.
All right. See you guys next time.